right, good morning, grade threes. Today, me and Miss Taya have made a really fun lab for you guys. We're going to be talking a little bit more about convection, something we've covered a little bit in our past classes. So we're going to be talking more about that, and we're going to be using hot water and cold water and food coloring, and we're going to watch them mix and see what happens.
Hi everybody. So we're going to quickly go over the list of materials that we're going to be using in this demonstration before we move on to safety. Glass milk bottles, 4 of them, just so you can do the experiment properly. Water, both hot and cold. Food coloring, I chose red and blue. 2 waterproof playing cards. I have these laminated cards here. Lots of paper towel or just regular towel that you don't mind getting messy. Messy clothes that you don't mind getting stained. I have some eye protection because we are dealing with some hot water. I have some oven mitts for the same reason. And for our students, multicolored pencil crayons and our prediction chart that Mrs. North hopefully handed out earlier.
All right, so I know we're really excited to start, but before we do that, we're going to have to go over some super important safety measures. All right, so we're going to go over some safety measures now. So first thing we have to do is make sure that we have a very clean workspace so that we're ready to do this experiment. Next, I want to make sure that everybody has closed-toed shoes on. So if you don't have your runners on, please go put them on now. We'll wait for you. And then also we need to remember that we're going to be working with hot water today. So we have to make sure that we don't get burnt. So we're going to make sure that we have our oven mitts to handle the hot water so we don't burn ourselves. And then also we're going to check our containers that we're going to be using and make sure they aren't chipped or cracked. All right, I think we're ready to go.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the demo. For the demo, you guys can obviously see here, I have the hot water on top, the cold water underneath, and then the reverse for the second demo. And I also have my protective eye gear on, and I also have my oven mitts for when I have to touch the hot milk jugs. All right, so make sure you guys are watching really closely so that you guys can see what happens for each experiment. And right now, just take a second to write down in the second column your predictions for the first one. So what do you think is going to happen when the cold water is on the bottom and the hot water is on top, based on what we've already told you? All right, now that you guys have written your predictions for the first one, we're going to go ahead and pull the card. I have my oven mitts on because I have to touch this and watch really closely. It's not as easy as it looks. All right, so the card is now removed in this one here, and I want you guys to go ahead and make some observations about what you see. All right, guys, now we're gonna move on to the second demo here. So we already did the first one where the cold water's on the bottom and the hot water's on top, and you guys have made your observations about what you saw happen. So now we're gonna move on to the inverse of that, when the hot water is on the bottom and the cold water is on top.
Please make sure you have your predictions ready before we start.
So we're going to remove this card. Make sure you guys are watching closely so that you know what's happening and so that you can make observations later. And overall, it's just kind of a cool thing to watch. You might want to make sure that you don't look away because it happens pretty fast. I'll stand. Do you guys notice a difference between the first demo and the second demo? The second demo is still going on though. You can see it. What's going on here?
Okay, so for a little bit more of an explanation, we're going to talk about what happened during the experiment. So as you could see, in the first demonstration, we got a mixing and we got this really cool purple color. So that was happening because of convection. So since hot water has more energy than cold water, there was a mixing that happened. So as you can see in the picture, the hot molecules move faster They have more space in between them and are less dense. Now, if we compare this to the colder water molecules, they move slower, they have less space in between them, and they are more dense. So since hot water is less dense, it wants to be on top, and cold molecules are more dense, so they want to be on the bottom. So that's kind of why that happened. And the hot water has more energy than the cold water because it gained heat from being boiled. So since the water was boiled, that's why they're moving faster. There's more space and they're less dense.
All right, guys, now that the demo is all finished, we're gonna recap about what we learned today. So what we went over earlier was how hot water is less dense than cold water due to the heat energy in it and due to the molecules bouncing off of each other so quickly and spreading out a little bit more far apart than cold water. It likes to rise and be on top because it's less dense than the cold water. As you can see, that's what happened here. The cold water was already at the bottom, the hot water was already at the top. They already were where they wanted to be. Whereas for this one, the hot water was at the bottom and the cold water was on top. So they tried to switch places. In switching places, the water mixed together, which is why it caused the color change, and there was no color change here. Take this time to fill in the rest of your table. Make sure that all of your columns are filled in. Make sure you guys got through all of your coloring of your predictions, and make sure you guys recorded your outcomes and whether or not they matched up with your predictions.